This podcast is called Obsessed. Joseph Scrimshaw and his guest get some secrets off their chest. You should listen. It's the best.
Hello and welcome to Obsessed with me, Joseph Scrimshaw. I'm sitting in the fancy Feral Audio Studios with some very fancy guests. They are the editors of Reductress, Beth, Newell, and Sarah Pappalardo.
Hi.
Hello. We just talked about how to pronounce your names, and Beth, I think I said yours overly fancy.
I mean, I like it. It's good.
but I did it wrong though, right?
I mean, I normally say Newell,
Newell.
but Newell is beautiful.
I think it's the new correct.
Yeah.
I think I just like any sort of name pronunciation where it feels like a hand gesture should go with it. Mm-hmm. And Newell feels like it should be just very, very fancy.
Yeah.
My business partner, Beth Newell.
I'm going to start going by Elizabeth.
Yes.
Elizabeth Newell. Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for being here and enduring my problems with your names and my desire to make them overly fancy. Can you tell people listening a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, we are the co-founders and editors of Reductress, a satirical women's magazine.
That's it. No. Yeah, we are both humans who live in New York, who met doing sketch comedy at the Magnet Theater, and we started Reductress about 3 years ago, so we've been just like kicking it since then.
Yeah, and Reductress is great. I absolutely love it. It's hilarious.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, and you guys feel like you're obviously like really happy with it transition from doing like more live performance to putting the comedy on the internet where you don't necessarily have to put on pants and go somewhere.
I think so. There's more control, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, we still do live shows and stuff like that. So there's still like a balance of like going out and interacting with the world. But it's good to have replaced a day job with this.
Yeah.
During the day.
It's like an actual funny, meaningful thing.
Yes.
Awesome. So for full honesty's sake, for the audience listening, when Sarah and Beth and I were first talking about you guys coming here and doing this, we were going to record in October. And I was like, please give me a creepy, spooky obsession. And you guys were like, witches. So it's not October anymore, but we're still going to talk about witches.
We're still spooky.
Our obsession hasn't changed.
Excellent. So I want to get started talking about witches then. And I didn't really ask you guys ahead so I could be surprised. There's so much to think about when you talk about witches. Sometimes like you ask people their obsession, they're like, I like soccer. Like, well, everybody knows what soccer is. That's an agreed upon thing. But witches is wide open. So what does witches mean to you guys?
Yeah, I think we have sort of a similar feeling of like there's so much there. Like it's not like any one thing, but I think for me, like the thing I love about witches, whether it's like a fictional portrayal of witches or like the actual idea of practicing witchcraft, is like the idea of like female empowerment and like seeing women in a role that is like not necessarily cheerful and sweet, I guess.
Right.
Yeah, for me, it's been a fascination with the historical aspects of women kind of historically not having power in a kind of a patriarchal world. And witchcraft was one of many ways that women sought power within the home that they were kind of relegated to for a very long time. So it was like, it's just part of this incredibly bizarre story of how we suppress female power over the centuries. And
okay,
yeah,
cool. From the outside, that makes sense to me that you guys would like it because there are rhythms of what Reductress is. You guys take a complex approach on the idea of what being a woman is in Reductress, and I feel like witches are a pretty great example of complexity.
Yeah.
I think like what's interesting for me, like just like looking back at my childhood, and I think like before I ever like knew about feminism or like articulated any idea of like wanting to be a feminist, I think things like witches always really appealed to me. Just I think for that inherent nature of like women being powerful.
Yeah.
And right now it's just really cool to be a witch in Bushwick. So
yeah.
That's they're so pretty.
So is it entirely a pop culture thing, like witches in pop culture, or is there are either of you Wiccan? Do you have Wiccan friends? Is that a whole separate thing to you?
I mean, I can only speak for myself there. I do not practice any kind of witchcraft. Like I I don't have time for another worldview imposed upon me. But like, I have always been super into the historical aspect of it, and just like spent a lot of time thinking about it in college, and I'm like super interested in to see how the like witchcraft and Wicca is gonna be revived during this new presidency that we're dealing with.
Yeah.
That we've spawned.
Yeah, I don't really practice any form of witchcraft, but I am like fascinated with the practice of it, and like just the idea of like any practice that you sort of like that historically has had to be kept hidden. Like I'm so curious about all the details of it, and I don't know.
Right. Like you want to know why it was hidden, if it was just hidden out of paranoia or the patriarchy being controlling, or if it was something more to it.
Yeah, I mean, I assume it has a lot to do with the patriarchy being terrifying.
And like not being burned to death, I think, was a good reason to keep it hidden.
True.
Yeah.
Good historical perspective
yes,
for sure.
Thank you.
I'm very fascinated with all of the ways that like women claim their power, both like small and large.
I think you both said you got attracted to the idea of witches at an early age. So I would love to hear like if you have memories of the first time you're like, hey, a witch, that's a cool thing. I want to learn more about that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think we should qualify that we both grew up in New England. So,
okay.
And Beth was like extremely, way closer to Salem than I was. But
yeah, I grew up pretty close to Salem. So I guess Halloween is like a little bit bigger of a deal in Massachusetts. I had a neighbor across the street who was like a little older than my parents, and she was like always out in her front yard gardening and stuff, and always like did like excessive Halloween decorations, like strobe lights and like fake gravestones and like a witch standing over a cauldron, and like, like I think some years she would even get like dry ice or something to like create fog, and like she just went all out, and she was a witch for Halloween every single year and loved witches, and I found it inspiring. She was like one of my favorite people. So
did you ever go to her and say, I am interested, I'd like to sign up for your newsletter, I want to know more about this witch stuff?
Well, like if I had known to ask, I guess I would have asked her like if witchcraft appealed to her on like a literal level, or like what the deal was there. But like I think she was just interacting with it on like a more superficial basis. Like she was also very into like crafting and dolls, and like she was just this like kooky lady that did all these seemingly fun things.
When you say your neighbor is into dolls, how did you become aware of that? Did she have them like strung up in her yard?
I mean, so she would take like craft classes, I think, and like she did a lot of crafting on her own. Like she had a little shed in the backyard where she could like put things together, like make wreaths and stuff. And she, I think, took a class on like making dolls, basically, where you get the like plain porcelain, and then you like paint on their features and like their lips and stuff, and then like get them clothes. I don't know.
This is sounding like the best neighbor ever.
Yeah. So I mean, yeah, she was great.
So Sarah, did you have a similar experience or a different experience where witches popped into your world?
I mean, I remember going to Salem as a kid and getting the kind of like pop, it's because on a certain days in Salem, it feels like a witch-themed Disney World.
Okay.
Because everyone's just like capitalizing on it and just like selling stuff.
I was going to ask about that. It's totally embraced. It's not like some horrible, awful things happened here. It's now just like, hey, tourism town, witches, yay, burning.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a witch museum there that's really something to see. It's kind of just like a big room, like Hall of Presidents style, where like you watch a presentation where like a light shines on a different part of the room, and then these semi like animatronic statues. I think a lot of them don't move, but you just hear like an audio recording of like the events of the Salem witch trials. And like the last one is like, I think it's Giles Corey is this guy who got like crushed to death for being a witch.
Oh, really?
And so you just see a light shined on this like statue man who's like being like crushed in this like vice like device with like rocks thrown on top of it, and then the audio recording is just like one of those bad like things you would see at a theme park. He's like, oh like,
that really takes you there.
So it's like the witch version of the Wilhelm scream.
Yeah. I highly recommend it. It's
Okay.
really good.
That helps set the stage for me to know that they embrace it. So you're visiting this area and you're becoming enamored of witches.
Yeah, and I never got to go to the museum. But no, I mean, there was just this like total embrace of this like kind of rewriting of witches. Is like, ooh, it's like fun and spooky. But growing up in New England is always so weird in that like there is still this like stodginess and conservatism that is like a very particular brand of it that comes from like the Puritan background. Like even like when we were kids, you couldn't even like buy beer in Massachusetts on Sunday. Like there were still like blue laws that existed from like hundreds of years before.
Yeah. And colonial time, I feel, is referenced a lot more often there, like in your education, like around Thanksgiving, and like it's just very present in your mind of like this stuff happened here.
You're like literally not allowed to like be from Massachusetts and not be aware that like we started it all, even though it's like not true. Like you find out later that there was a colony down in Virginia, but they're like, no, like, Plymouth Rock. Yeah, this is where it all happened.
They'll like reenact the Battle of Lexington and Concord. Like it's just all this stuff always.
Yeah. But I mean, like it all stemmed from this like weirdo Puritan culture that just like ended up burning a bunch of people. Like they. Everything in Massachusetts, like they present this world, we're like, oh, the Puritans were the best ever because we weren't eating people like down in the Jamestown colony.
We were burning people.
But it's like exactly that like weird like insular mindset that like led to people being like, oh, those 12-year-old girls are just acting up a little too much. Yeah. Like they might be going a little crazy over these stressful circumstances we're all under. Let's burn them. And that'll fix us.
I think a big part of New England is like the Puritans picked a bad place to settle. Like it's not a good place to try to live if you're just like a family like in a log cabin or whatever they started out. You know, like it's the soil is super rocky, like you can't grow much. So you have to like save a ton of food over the winter. The winters are horrible. You know, like it's just a bad idea that they had and then out of stubbornness really stuck to it. And so
typical.
This is like very much the New England attitude of like life is hard, deal with it, don't try to make it better. Just take pride in dealing. Like,
No, that makes a lot of sense. I'm from Minnesota, and a lot of the early settlers of Minnesota had that background.
Yeah.
So, like, historians in Minnesota will often say, like, well, you got all this fun stuff, but then you can sense the Puritanism.
Yeah.
In, like, early newspapers just lie to the East Coast about the Minnesota winters. Like, because the newspapers are just advertisements to come move out here and like, it's so bracing and healthy. You'll be a very robust person if you can enjoy Minnesota. And then you look up and it's like, it was -20 that day, motherfucker. You wrote that? You're just lying to people. So you're surrounded by it always. But was there any one witch epiphany moment for you, Sarah?
I didn't have one when I was a child. I don't think there was like really one moment. I just read a lot about it when I was in college. So I had this like boring academic route to actually learning what that weird pop culture version of it that I got in Salem was, and that like the whole culture that I grew up in was like the cause of this like weird regulation of women's behavior and everything. So cool. Have you come around to enjoying the pop culture side of it? Yeah. Oh yeah. No, I mean like it's super fun and like it's just like fun because like I don't know why anyone practices witchcraft other than to like feel better. Like that's like really I think pretty much the point of it, right? So like any kind of pop culture representations are just pretty like fun. Do you guys have a favorite representation of witches in pop culture, either because they're fun or because they best exemplify a person taking their power? I liked all the witch movies growing up. I think like this is not an accurate representation at all, but I loved Hocus Pocus. I loved The Craft when I was in high school. I loved the movie The Witches, although that one scared me a little bit more. The pop culture thing appeals to me just because, again, it's like, it's kind of like the female Ghostbusters movie. It's like one of the few times you get to see women like doing anything in pop culture in a powerful way, whether it's for good or bad. You're just like seeing strong women. And they're working together almost always in all these movies, right? Yeah, a lot of times. And having a relationship among women. Right. It's like even when they're pure evil, you're like, oh, I got to see those two women talk about like
eating children. You know, like you're just like.
But at least it passed the Bechdel test,
yeah,
right?
like at least they weren't just trying to please a man. You know.
Yeah, they're just trying to eat children.
Yeah.
Just talking about stuff.
Yeah, but as far as like the actual practicing of witchcraft goes, I think it has a lot to do with that idea of like manifesting. I'm not sure if you're familiar with like law of attraction stuff. It's sort of like the book The Secret, like the idea that you put out there into the world your desire and that helps draw it to you.
Okay.
And I think witchcraft is like based a lot on that, based on my like very surface understanding of witchcraft.
And these are just like, when you say witchcraft, you mean like just the actual like rites and bits of worship that Wiccans are doing as part of their religion.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I think it's like, it's ritual too, you know, like they follow like the cycles of the moon and the seasons and the harvest. And so it like, you know, like any other religion, it gives you like a comforting ritual to follow and like a hope that the things that you're doing will like bring forth your desires. And
Right.
yeah.
Hoping for the best in a very elaborate, specific way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think it's any more elaborate or specific than a lot of other religion. I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
No, not at all. Not
Yeah,
compared
yeah.
to other religions. Yeah. I mean, that's my bias on religion. If you dig down to anything, like I try to be respectful of all religions, but to me, if you dig down to any ritual, they start to sound really weird. Like,
yeah. Well, I think here's the thing. I think with a lot of religions that we're not familiar with, including witchcraft, it's like when we're not a part of them, we like literalize them and assume this interpretation of them that's like very literal. And I'm not saying some of the people who practice it aren't doing like a literal version, but like not every Christian has like an evangelical like letter to the law understanding of Christianity.
Right.
And I don't think a lot of witches are like, I light this candle and then everything happens. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I don't think they like think like magical things are necessarily going to like happen immediately.
right,
Yeah.
a ritual is a ritual.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and we have different interpretations of that. We have ones that we have decided because it's a prominent religion, this is a perfectly normal religion. And then ones we don't know about or understand as much of like, you got the goats and the candles. And like,
Right.
no, it's just a ritual.
But it's like, I think it's like the way people were talking about yoga like 20 years ago. Like, they were
Okay.
like those idiot magical thinkers who like think that they gotta chant or, you know, like that like weird understanding everyone had of yoga.
Yeah.
When you'd have like characters like Phoebe on Friends and everyone was like new agey, blah, blah, blah. And now it's like everyone does yoga.
Because
and, like,
it works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like, it's just like a good practice, you know?
Yeah, like stretch your body a little bit,
just
try to
like-
be calm. You
yeah, like-
weirdo.
It's not
Right.
like, it's just a thing that makes you feel good. It's fine, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Do you have any particular favorites in pop culture?
You know, this is out there. This is pretty crazy. But I was just thinking of all these 90s movies. I was thinking of Fried Green Tomatoes. And like this bizarre, I know, like hold on to it for a second. But first of all, I mean, it was one of the like gayest movies of the 90s that nobody even like really paid attention to unless
Okay.
you were paying attention.
Did they ever acknowledge that they were gay in that movie?
No, they never do.
Okay, but it's like heavily implied.
Right. But you remember Kathy Bates' character like renames herself in this way that completely changes her personality. And we were listening to this podcast on like on witchcraft and about like choosing your like witchy name.
Oh,
and you
like,
can
okay.
have and like I mean it totally reminds me of like even just like the Black Muslim like movement of like taking your new name and like getting rid of your slave name and like the way that like you choose this new name. I think she was like, I'm Tawanda, and then just like I don't know, rear end somebody and just like takes on this whole new personality. Yeah, that I was just
Yeah.
like, oh, this is exactly what all those other movies are trying to like get to. But-
Yeah. But I think that's like one of my big takeaways is like what is empowering for one person is not necessarily empowering for another. So it's
Okay.
like just a waste of time to judge like the form of how someone does that for themselves, you know? Like
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I have not seen Fried Green Tomatoes in a very long time. Is there actual
No,
witches?
there's not.
It's just the
There's not.
spirit of...
I'm going on a left field there because I was like basically like Hocus Pocus and The Craft and The Witches were our only like 3 movies growing up that really, you know, like other than
Yeah.
like, you know,
I mean, in another non-witch direction, we had like A League of Their Own.
oh yeah. So these are our witchy movies that were not inherently witchy, but if you look into it, they're
Yeah.
exceptionally
You
witchy.
can sense the witchiness
Yes,
underneath.
exactly,
Excellent.
exactly.
So yeah, I totally understand where you guys are coming from with the more empowering view of witches, but they are like a staple pop culture wise of Halloween, of creepy, and certainly plenty of horror movies
'Cause female power is scary.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask a couple, at least one question about that, which is if you guys were going to the woods, like you were camping, I don't know if you're camping people, and somebody said it is haunted by witches. Would that be a happy thing? Or like, great, I want to meet a witch. Are you susceptible to the sort of paranoia, the fear of like, there's an unknown malignant force out there?
I guess I don't believe in witches in that sense. Like,
Yeah, I think that's kind of where like pop culture ran away with the narrative, is that like, I don't think witchcraft was ever about haunting anyone. It was really just about like using energy and like nature to, help control like your own space.
Yeah.
yeah.
So that's just kind of where it like, I wouldn't believe it because it's like not even something that, it's just like,
I
in
think
the
it's
imagination
just,
of other people.
It's just one of those patriarchal ways that like men depict anything women do, I think. I'm sure there was someone practicing witchcraft for like negative means and probably still is. But
like there's like voodoo and stuff like that.
Yeah, but it's not like, I don't think that's their end goal most of the time. They're just trying to pursue their own happiness. So the idea that like there are these like bad witches out there just like trying to do bad, like I like even actual witches I've heard about like in the news recently who were like trying to cast negative spells was like there was witches trying to put a curse on Brock Turner after the Brock Turner rape case. And that still is like they're just trying to fight the patriarchy.
Yeah.
Like, like that's not them like just being evil, you know?
Yeah, that's right. It's not just them like sitting in the woods and some innocent person wanders in and they're like, oh, hocus pocus. Like, no, they're proactive.
Yeah, like I don't know, it's just like witches got a bad rap. Like, why is it that all of a sudden like witches are somehow among like werewolves, vampires, and like other completely mythical creatures? And I just think it's that the fear that like women doing magic could lead to something bad, like that fear overrides any sort of basis in reality that there is about witches.
Yeah,
like
I know. I think that makes sense because I think a lot of these classic monsters grow out of usually, particularly like European traditions of things we're afraid of like the animal inside, or we're afraid of, if you're a vampire, you're afraid of dying, you want to suck away someone's youth. And then witches are just like, and then what if you were a woman?
Yeah, exactly.
Scary.
What if you're a woman who like had an opinion? Or yeah. I do think there's this tendency to just like any interest that is like more of a female thing than a male thing gets labeled in a weird way. Like for some reason people hate astrology. Like they'll like make fun of it all the time. Like, and like I'm not saying you have to believe in astrology or whatever, but it's like such a harmless thing. And like guys watch sports all the time, all day, and it's not like sports have like a purpose. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like why all the hate for something like astrology?
Right.
You know?
And I mean, with the Cubs recently, there was the whole goat curse, which is a pretty, they're kind of stepping into the witch territory to be afraid of a goat-based curse.
Right. Like if a man has a belief like that, people are like, oh, well, whatever. It's harmless fun or what, but like when a woman does, they're like, she's crazy, like,
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these things are just like traditions women pass down of like noticing that certain herbs would like help a sore throat or something. You know what I mean? It's not like they're like doing anything super crazy. It's just like there wasn't always like an established knowledge around certain things, so people just had to hand down whatever tradition worked for them, and then that sort of gets like mischaracterized along the way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I have 2 children and I've worked with midwives and doulas for both of my births, and it's like that's a tradition of women just like sharing knowledge about like how birth goes and like doing it in a non-male dominated way. And I think like people are terrified of that because like they're like male doctors came in and they were like, no, this is the way that birth should go. And like, I don't know. I have a lot of feelings about that, obviously.
Yeah, no, understandably.
Bullshit.
I'm not saying don't go to a doctor. I'm just saying like don't
Yeah.
be so skeptical of like the female traditions.
Yeah. I was thinking about that I was kind of trying to make a list for myself and think through like witches in pop culture. And like Blair Witch Project is one of the big movies that popped into my mind. And I realized even with that, it is just totally the fear of the unknown. We never know anything about the Blair Witch's agenda or feelings. It's just some doofuses get in her way.
Right.
And
right.
like, yeah. And then maybe she does. Maybe she's mad at them for littering, for throwing the map in the river. Who knows? But like it is such a, even that, which is in theory a negative portrayal of the unknowing horrible thing, is there isn't really any perspective about what's bad about the Blair Witch? We don't know anything.
Yeah. And like, is it really a witch or is this like a ghost story? Like, I always thought that was just like a ghost story.
Yeah.
That was, whatever, for what it's worth.
Yeah, absolutely. On a little bit more superficial note, going to the pop culture witch, if you could have any of the like stereotypical sort of witch gear, like your neighbor's lawn was decked out with, like a broomstick or a cauldron or a wand or any of this sort of paraphernalia of a witch, what would actually be fun to have?
Oh, broomstick all the way.
Yeah.
I'd fly around on that thing. Like,
I mean, a wand seems pretty cool. Maybe that's like my vindictive spirit, but like just to wield that power.
It'd be great.
Yeah.
Sweet wand.
Would you want to have a wand even if it wasn't actually like spells, but it just made you feel like you had spells? Like to me, it sounds
comfort
fun.
wand.
100%. One time
Comfort wand.
one time when I was living in Brooklyn, I think I like found a stick in the park that was just like a nice stick, and I remember like taking it home with my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, and like keeping it for a while and like referring to it as my wand. Like I didn't really do much with it, but it's like just sort of comforting. Like I don't know if you've ever done something where you like have to get a lot of writing done, so you'll be like, I need this snack, or like I've like put a hat on and been like, this is my writing hat,
Oh,
and I'm gonna like get this done today. So it's like nice to have little like tokens.
Yeah.
I don't
know. I'm getting pretty excited about the wand idea. I'm just
I'm
giving
gonna go.
myself some empowerment in my own life.
I'll be astral projecting, riding on a broom tonight. Give it a whirl.
Now, if you could ride the broomstick or anything else, have the same power of the broomstick for transportation, is the broomstick the best? Or if you could ride any other stick-like household object, would a mop be better? Would a stick from the yard be better? Or is there actual magic in the broomstick itself?
Ooh.
I think going to like the actual witch tradition, I think there's something about like a broom that's like they're not using like a big long broom like we would sweep our floor with, but just like a very small thing. And it's like, I think it has something to do with like how they used to have to sweep the hearth all the time when they were like making fires. And
Okay.
I think then the power of it is supposed to reference the hearth or something like that. I don't remember the exact symbolism. But anyway,
Yeah.
back to the actual question.
No, that's great.
I do think having an actual broom is way cooler and scarier if you were like to fly by someone.
I mean, I'd like something with a little more stability, but like, I'll take it.
Like a Harry Potter broom that's like
Yeah.
decked out.
Yeah, like an athletic broom.
Like it's got some branding on it.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
want a
yeah.
branded broom, basically.
Exactly.
I feel like a part of the story of witches is that story of the old knowledge and like the old ways. Do you feel? I think you've kind of already answered this. Do you feel like that is empowering to have such a connection of the idea of old knowledge, or do you think sometimes that doesn't feel empowering because it's not about being in the now?
I think it's empowering. I think like for me, it just feels like under-respected in our society because I think there's a lot of truth to a lot of it. And like the reason you don't see studies about how like lavender oil affects people is because a drug company can't patent lavender oil. Like anyone can distill the oils down. So that's why you're not going to see a drug company throw like millions of dollars behind a study for that. And we're never going to like really know if it's like a good remedy. You know what I mean? I just think there's a lot there. Like I think some researchers recently in England, like these two women, they were looking at like really old texts of like remedies, and they found one that was like, I forget, it had really weird ingredients of like mushrooms or like cow stomach or something. But like they tried this like potion or whatever that was like a remedy for, it was like an antibacterial or like to fight like viruses and stuff. Like stuff we really need. And they did this and then they tested it and it worked.
Wow.
And it's like not necessarily, I don't know if you could mass produce that, like what they did, but it's like, I just don't think we should discount this stuff because it seems like this like spooky, like superstition.
Yeah, like, I mean, as much as like I live and accept the real world as it is, I think it's good to have just a healthy acknowledgement that like everything we live in is a construct to an extent, and that like we've been in like roughly 1,000 years of like Judeo-Christian patriarchal living, and how that kind of like just feeds into everything we do in life, and just what the role of men are and what the role of women are in the house and whatnot, and that maybe like 1,000 or 2,000 years ago, these kind of like pagan matriarchal traditions weren't weird. They actually were pretty normal.
Right.
And we just happen to be born in a time when they're just freaking out there. So for me, it's just more of like a healthy acknowledgement that like normal is always a matter of opinion to a degree.
Yeah.
And that these are things that could come back again for better or for worse.
I think that's an awesome perspective. That helps me because I think I have a very romantic attachment to the idea of like the ancient, and the old books that are musty and, they know things. So to have a more like healthy historical perspective to that, because I think I have a sort of romantic bias too. I want to believe that there are the secret old ways, but I think that's from myself being sort of a pop culture obsessive.
Yeah. Like another thing that fascinates me is like, you see all these people using crystals these days and everyone's like, they're crazy. Why are they using crystals? But like we also have crystals in our cell phone because crystals do like change energy and like do things. You know what I mean? Like I just think you have to ask yourself like, is there actually no science to it? Or is it the fact that we haven't like discovered the science behind it?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm very fascinated with that right now because there's a huge upset in Star Wars world.
Oh.
Because lightsabers are activated by kyber crystals. And there's a new book that came out starring one of the main feminist stars of Star Wars right now, a character named Ahsoka Tano. And she took a bad guy's lightsaber, and then when she used his crystal, it changed colors to a good color.
Wow.
So I think there's going to be a lot more discussion of crystals among Star Wars weirdos like myself and their
why
validity.
Are they upset about it? Because she...
No one's upset about it.
Oh,
it's
they're just like,
it's
whoa.
New. One of the reasons I like Star Wars is that it is strangely reflective of the real world in that it is so based on generational and what was valuable in the past and cycles repeating themselves.
Yeah.
So any time that you introduce something new to the canon that really changes your fundamental understanding, then you can watch people process it in the same way that they process things in the real world. But it's a safer discussion because it's about Star Wars and nobody's actually going to murder each other over it. But they're going to get really passionate and they're going to want to know the truth.
Right.
Ooh, so like is it clear whether it's because she's good or because she's a woman, or does it matter? Is that just like, are people asking that?
No, I don't think the conversation has got to that depth. The story is very much about empowerment.
Okay.
And it's about her empowerment, and it is that she takes the crystal from the bad guy and she uses it to make her own new lightsabers, and they're a surprise color that they've never been before because she has a different relationship to the crystal. And it's I love it because it's like this silly, ridiculous Star Wars lightsabers crystals, but it also has like those reflections in the real world. Speaking of reflections in the real world, here's my final question for this segment of the podcast. If you guys could cast like a spell, like an actual spell, not like a practical ritual that people are doing for practical reasons, but an actual magic spell, what kind of magic spell would you want to be able to cast?
Oh my gosh. I mean, Donald Trump comes to mind.
What specifically would you want to be able to do about the horrific Trump situation?
I mean, this might be a little bit trite, but I would probably cast a spell on him to be unable to speak any words other than "I am a huge pussy" over and over again. Just see how that goes.
Yeah, if he could just like break down crying in front of all of us and like apologize for everything.
Oh yeah.
Part of me wants to make him disappear, but I don't want to like erase the history of what we've endured. So I don't know.
Like show us the true, deep, vulnerable part of your damaged soul so we can all like see it and hear it.
I am so curious like what he actually thinks and believes, like because we can't seem to figure it out. He states every differing opinion on every subject.
Yeah. I don't know. I think all podcasts will be half podcasts about Donald Trump in this period of time. But yeah, I watched a special a couple of weeks before the election on CNN that was really, it was this strange sort of origin story that walked through him. It was like his daddy told him that winning was the most important. Mm-hmm. And that helped me understand a little bit of that. Just he seems to get away with, I will say whatever I have to think that I'm winning in the moment. Yeah. And then if I have to say another thing next time, as long as I'm winning, that's all. Like, wow.
Yeah, the Frontline documentary was really fascinating about him and terrifying.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I think those are great spell answers to have him say, "I'm a huge pussy," and break down sobbing and talk about his feelings.
Yeah.
An excellent use of your power.
Hey guys, it's Obsessed co-producer Sarah Meyer, out on the streets of Burbank, of all places, trying to find out what people on the street think about witches. When I say the word witch, what do you think of?
Somebody mean and ready to kill somebody.
I have no idea about witch. I don't believe in witch.
What do you think when you hear the word witches?
Unitarians. I've known some Wiccan people because I go to a Unitarian camp, so they're really more into nature, I think, than Halloween witches, which is, what people think of usually. Yeah, the stereotype.
I just finished a book about witches by Nora Roberts.
What were the witches like in the book?
It was a man. The witch was a man.
If you could cast any spell to do anything you want.
To make me to live until I'm 100.
I don't think you'll have a problem with that.
I'm getting there.
Yeah. If you could cast a spell or, put a curse on somebody, what would it be?
A cat. Pocus, pocus, pickety pock, make you a little cat. Pinky peacock.
If you could ride a broomstick to fly around, would you?
If it'll take me around the world.
Yeah, maybe it would.
Absolutely.
What other household object would be good to travel on?
Probably a vacuum. Vacuum would be good.
Would you clean at the same time?
No, I don't clean. No. I don't do well at it.
What do you think of witches?
I think they come out at Halloween.
Yeah. Have you ever dressed up as a witch for Halloween?
I did one.
Can you tell me about your costume?
There was a witch's broom, and my sister was a cat, and he was my cat.
Were you the cat?
Yeah.
What does a cat say?
Meow.
What does a witch's cat say?
Meow.
We're going to move on to our How Obsessed Are You questions. So these are questions or variations of them that I ask everybody across all the podcasts, and I will warn you, some of them are weird.
Ooh.
So the first question is, do you think about witches every day?
No, I don't think so.
Nope.
No. So what makes you think of witches? Is it just seeing it or seeing something in pop culture or?
It's anytime I see a woman subvert the norm and find power in something unusual that other people might fear.
Okay.
Which is kind of every day.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. So in a sort of a fried green tomatoes level of
Precisely.
witches, you think about it every day.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome. How about you?
I do follow an Instagram account called The Hood Witch, and it's like a New York-based witch, I think, or it might be actually more than one witch, but yeah. I guess stuff like that makes me think of it. I'm, like vague New Agey stuff that I follow online.
Cool. Have you guys ever had a dream about witches?
Oh, God, yeah. Yeah, one time I had a dream, and this is weird, because for some reason I have this, recurring dream where, all the old people in my life are really short. Isn't that weird?
So
I had,
like elderly people?
like grandparents.
Okay.
They're really short for some reason. And one time I had a dream where there were just a bunch of, old witches that were really, short. And, just fucking around like children. It was really weird.
What does that mean?
I
Yeah.
don't know. Have fun with that one.
So it's not just that they're short, it's that their behavior is also childlike.
Yeah.
But they're still old and
They still look old, but they're short and
It
childlike.
feels like that's your subconscious trying to process that they're not authority figures or something.
I think so.
Like that they don't have authority over you.
I think so. Maybe. And something about old age and losing power and,
It's so
and
fascinating.
returning back to having someone responsible for you. But I don't know what that has to
Yeah.
do with witches. That might have just been some weird, the last thing I watched on TV was combined with
Yeah.
whatever.
That's so funny.
I wish when we got older, it was a full return to childhood,
Yeah.
where we played with toys and stuff.
Yeah.
How about you? Have you ever had any dreams about witches or witchcraft?
I don't think so. Nothing is coming to mind. I don't know.
Okay. Next question is, when someone walks into your home, are they able to tell you're obsessed with witches?
No, I guess not. I mean, here's the thing that I keep all my obsessions very quiet.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I like to yeah. I don't know. It's just such it's weird. So I keep them all just
Is your home like an Apple store?
Yeah, it's actually glass windows. No, it's just but I don't think you can read a lot from my home about what I'm into. It's more
Really?
maybe on the bookshelf, maybe in like search history or something, or like what I've watched on TV, but not really in the home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now that I'm thinking about it, I do think I have like a book of spells on my shelf that I've like very rarely ever cracked open. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but someone would have to like walk in and look around and study to detect that you like witches.
Yeah. That's
Okay.
not super apparent.
How about for your house? Is there any other obvious obsession when somebody just walks into your home?
I think my obvious obsession is like the ocean or like ocean related things. I have like several pieces of whale art, and like I have a shelf that's made out of driftwood. So that's pretty prominent. And I have a lot of like old bottles.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's like she just wants to go to the sea.
I do want to feel like I'm like by the sea a
Yeah.
lot of the time. Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. So I'm fascinated by this obsessionless home. Do you mind describing it a little bit? Does it feel homey to you?
Yeah, I mean, it does. But I mean, I think part of it's like I moved in with my girlfriend like a year ago. So
Okay.
it's definitely, she's lived there for like 10 years.
Okay.
So it's kind of like I haven't really had like a lot of opportunity to like make it my own, in the sense that we're like gonna repaint and like make
Okay.
it that. So like even all my books are kind of like still in boxes in a way and in storage. So it does feel kind of weird, but just like weird like obsessions with like particular like sci-fi or cultural theory and all that stuff. It's like mostly in the books.
Okay.
And so it does feel really weird to like have all that stuff in a box, because I'm starting to almost forget what I've been like really into when I can't look at my bookshelf every day.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is a little weird, but also we're just so busy that like I don't know if we have like time to relish in
Yeah.
things.
If people heard this podcast and were fans of Reductress and like sent you guys some witch stuff, like action figures or whatever, like little baubles, would you display them, or is that not the kind of
Oh yeah.
how you like?
Oh no,
I
we
think
got a pretty.
so.
We've got like a pretty like light witchy office.
Okay.
It's more. It's yeah. I mean, we
Yeah.
have at least one crystal in the office. Thanks, Beth.
Yeah, I did bring a crystal into the
Yeah.
office.
Yeah.
To like balance the chi out. We have a windowless office, so I felt like we needed like a thing. We tried to have a plant for a while,
It's
but
too much.
it's like obviously we're just slowly killing it.
Yeah.
Right. So crystals are like plants you don't have to maintain.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah,
They
exactly.
bring a little bit of light, a little bit of energy and sparkle.
Yeah.
Is there a particular goal to the crystal? You said to balance the chi. Is that
Yeah.
crystal supposed to be up to something in particular in your windowless office?
I think it's selenite. I was wandering through my town and I found like a feng shui type store, and the woman there told me that it was like supposed to provide balance and harmony to like a room. And I was asking her about like offices in particular, because we had been joking about kind of like getting a crystal for our office.
Yeah.
And like, or like just doing general things to like improve the vibe of our office, because it's such a small windowless room. And so she was telling me that, and I was like, well, I guess it's meant to be. I'm gonna buy this crystal.
Nice.
There it is.
And do you feel like it's working? Is it livening up the office?
I mean, that's hard to say.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Too many outside influences these days. It's
Yeah.
just like, who knows what the baseline is
Yeah.
Yeah.
for the Trump presidency.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Also, I think one thing that appealed to me about this particular crystal, for some reason, it's one of the crystals that you're not like, you don't have to like cleanse and charge it.
Okay.
Which like you're with a lot of crystals, you're supposed to like do that.
Okay. This is a nice low maintenance
Yeah,
crystal.
exactly. Like the succulent of crystals. Yeah.
Nice. I might like to get a succulent crystal. If you heard a stranger say an incorrect fact about witches, would you correct them?
Yeah. Oh, that's the thing. There's so many misconceptions. It's
Right.
like I could be correcting someone all day. So exhausting, but I will.
So you have to pick and choose, or
No,
for sure.
I'll definitely correct them.
yeah. Would you ever make a day of it where you're like, I'm just going to go to Salem and correct people for 8 hours?
Ooh, that would be really fun, and I think educational for everyone.
Yeah.
I would make a lot of enemies, but like, I mean, like, is it ironic to like mansplain witchcraft to people and like the history? I don't know.
It would be weird to do to people in Salem, because I would just assume they have like their own access point to witches.
They've decided.
Yeah, like I
what
don't want
witches mean to
just
them.
let them have their thing about it. I
Yeah.
guess. Yeah.
How about just wandering around, like you're visiting LA? If you're wandering around LA and you just hear somebody say something grossly incorrect about witches,
Yeah. I don't know. Probably not. Just like I get it, the witches are such a subjective topic. Like
Yeah.
it's not like there's like an established fact. Like with politics, like I know what Donald Trump didn't do, but like
Yeah.
with witches, it's like I don't know. Are they referring to movies? Or they're like what are they referring
Yeah.
to?
What if they said something just incorrect about the movie Hocus Pocus? Like, that is not
Yeah.
how that movie resolves.
Yeah, I would correct him. Yeah.
Good to know. Would you ever have a witches-themed birthday party?
If I were to have a themed birthday party, then yes, I would. But I haven't really done a theme.
Yeah. I mean, that's like, yeah, it almost feels a little too cliche at this point. I don't know if, Brooklyn kind of just got, like, the witch trend, like, really came in hard.
Okay.
And it's like, it's just, like, so over. Like, guys, just, like, it's just people are, like, doing it. Like, I don't know. They're just, like, burning sage and just, like, doing all these things. But then they're, like, wearing black. And I'm like, you guys, like, people who were just, like, 10 years ago were like playing tennis and like wearing J. Crew, and I'm just like, this is just so at least in Brooklyn I would be like, no way, guys, like let's just respect this for what it is.
Okay,
and
cool.
have a Harlem Globetrotter themed birthday party instead.
Is that an obsession of yours, or do you just feel like
Nope.
they need
just
more
feel
attention?
like I just feel like they need more themed parties of this nature.
I am always changing these "How obsessed are you?" questions to try to keep them fresh and try to find different ways to approach sort of getting a sense of how into things people are. In this birthday party one, I like, but I'm struggling with because a lot of people are just like, I'm an adult. I don't want to have a birthday
Yeah.
party.
Yeah.
A themed
just-
birthday party.
There's so many things that you're like, I'm not against, but like I have kids and I would never have the energy to do that. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Like I just just like even basic things like just leaving the house to see a show. Like I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm like I would love to see that show, but it's never gonna happen.
Yeah. So you're not going to go out to see the Broadway version of Hocus Pocus when they make that?
I mean, maybe.
Yeah.
Kids would love it.
Would you, it sounds like both of you are in a relationship, but if you were in a dating stage of your lives, would you break up with someone who hated witches? Would that be a deal breaker?
That would be such a weird thing to hate. Like,
Yeah.
what would
Yeah.
you hate about
I
them?
might, because I would worry what's lying underneath that.
Yeah.
Right. Like, what do you mean by that? Because, like, I guess it's just like the idea of a witch carries so much like weird baggage and it's
Yeah.
like different for
Yeah.
everyone that it's like, why would you care that much to hate
Yeah.
witches?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's
I
weird.
do get very incensed by people who are like super judgmental of like any like new agey thing or like any belief in anything and like are like hardcore atheists. Like I have to tell everyone that atheism is right or whatever, because it's just like it's so hypocritical. Like who of us really knows what's real or fake? But like I just think like the idea that you need to like rail against anything is like really a turnoff.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. No, I mean,
unless the thing you're railing against is like actual injustice in the world, then it's like calm down, you know? Like
there's always some insecurity behind that like requires some questioning if
Yeah.
you're going to hate something for
Yeah.
no good reason.
Right, when people just want to hate things to hate things.
Yeah, yeah.
What if it was just like a sort of shitty Seinfeld episode where it was just like the person you were dating was just mildly disinterested in witches, and it was like more of a mystery. Where like they seem like a really pleasant, friendly, fun person, but then you're like, hey, I'm going to watch a witch movie, and they're just like, I'm going to leave then because witches aren't for me.
I would prefer that they just leave than like say bad things about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'll just give them side eye and
Yeah.
see how they do for the next few years.
This
Okay.
is
Not
quite
this
trust
like
them.
is something that like causes actual tension in my relationship where like sometimes like obviously me and my husband don't see eye to eye on like all forms of entertainment.
Yeah.
So like if he just were to just like leave the room while I'm watching something, I'd be fine. But it's when he stays and comments on it for the duration of an episode that you're like,
Oh.
get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Like if you don't like it, you don't like it. I like it, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. You should let people enjoy what they enjoy.
Yeah.
So does he, what is it, can I ask what he doesn't like?
He doesn't. It's funny because like I get really tense by like violence and certain
Okay.
kinds of conflict on screen, but he gets really tense about interpersonal conflict and like the like kind of made up drama of like reality TV and yeah. And I don't even watch a lot of reality TV, but even if like say I'm into a comedic show that is like slightly not necessarily like prank based, but like a Daily Show sort of segment that feels a little confrontational where like someone's not in on the joke, that incenses my husband. Like he can't watch it because he feels so uncomfortable about what's going on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, and he comments then throughout. Does he just say like, does he make
like,
noises or does he
he's
fully
like,
articulate?
oh, this makes me so uncomfortable. And sometimes it's like a joke that I love, So it's like, just get out of here, like.
He makes noises like the animatronic guy who gets crushed by a rock.
He's like, oh.
Excellent. This is the second to last question. It's a weird one. If there was a large bear blocking you from doing a witch-related activity, saying you guys both seem to like to read. So if there's like a witch book that you really were interested in, you wanted to have, but there was a bear in the way, would you try to get around the bear to get to a witch book?
No,
I would try to befriend the bear.
I would like the fact that you're putting the bear there and like so fascinated by the bear, and I think my instinct would be like, okay, like stay safe, but also like I'd be so excited about
honestly,
like
the witchiest thing to do is just befriend the bear.
Yeah.
Like, honor the bear and respect the bear.
Have you ever seen a bear like hiking or something?
Yeah.
Like it's scary but like thrilling.
It's great.
Yeah.
Like
great freaking animal.
Yeah.
Yeah,
bears are very cool.
Up close personal interactions with bears, which is I think part of the reason that I gravitate toward that question.
Yeah. Was it scary for you?
Yeah. 'Cause I did a commercial. I have a stand-up bit story about it, but basically I did a commercial where these bears were supposed to be trained actors, but they were basically just bears that were used to being around humans. Mm-hmm. But there was nothing trained about them. They didn't want to do any of the things that bears were supposed to do. And long story short, we were trying to get the bear to look at me. The way the controller guy got the bear to behave is by using gummy bears to direct the bears, which it didn't work. It was just like bad parenting. It was just like rewarding the bears for poor behavior.
Yeah.
So it didn't work at all. But we needed the bear to look at me. So he's like, why don't you just put a gummy bear between your teeth and then the bear will look at you.
Oh my God.
And I did. And the bear just leaned in and basically kissed me and ate the gummy bear out of my mouth repeatedly.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Okay, that's horrifying. But like, I mean, it like gently did, like it didn't like.
Yeah, it didn't like paw you onto the ground.
It did not maul me. The first time it did gently graze and take the gummy bear out of my mouth. And this was after a very long day and I was really annoyed. And we did this like 3 or 4 times. And I still don't know exactly why, but like the 4th time I pulled the gummy bear back into my mouth because it just on some level felt unfair that the bear was being rewarded with the gummy bear treat. And I felt like I should get it. And the bear did just like jam its tongue into my mouth because it knew that a gummy bear was supposed to be there. And it was just, yeah. So
That's so tender and
Yeah.
loving.
So I feel like your idea of embracing the bear,
Yeah.
I have done that. So
Oh, it's beautiful.
yeah, I tried to. Seriously, I had never really connected to. That's why I'm asking people about bears because I have some issues to work through.
Some bear issues.
Bears are one of those animals, like I know they're actually terrifying up close, but I want to live in a world where I could just like cuddle up into their belly.
Yeah.
Yep.
It
Yeah.
looks
Just like
so
that guy who
cozy.
got mauled in that Werner Herzog
Oh
documentary.
yeah, I know.
But I love that.
tried.
I think that's a great answer for the how obsessed are you question of, well, no, I would take some time to get to know the bear. Cuddle
Really
with it
flip
if it
that
was allowed.
question.
Yeah.
And then we'd read the witch book together. All right, this last question, I warn you, is odd. If you couldn't think about witches without you or someone you love first being punched in the crotch, would you still think about witches?
I don't know a lot of men, so I don't know if this is applicable.
I guess like if that opportunity was presented to me, it like seems as though there's something more powerful about thinking about witches that is worth fighting for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like the fact that someone's presenting you with that scenario means there's like something they don't want you to have there that like you should have, I
Wow.
guess.
We're really fucking with your questions here.
I know, it's great.
Sorry,
I love that. That's a
Good.
great answer, though. That's like coming to a door of like has like 18 locks, and it's like, why does that door need 18 locks?
Yeah.
There must be something of value behind that door.
And like I mean, I'm a woman, so getting punched in the crotch, I would recover fairly quickly.
Exactly. If my girlfriend got punched in the crotch, I'd be like, look, I'll make you dinner. Just let this one go.
I gotta think about witches.
I'm sorry.
So the question is phrased, you or someone you love. So are you saying that in order for you to think about witches, you would have your girlfriend take the punch?
Oh, me too. I mean, like, yeah, I'd take a punch in the crotch. Yeah, like I could take it. The worst things have happened.
But you immediately went to the girlfriend scenario. Like that was the comfortable option.
Yeah. She's strong. She can take it.
Yeah. So you guys obviously would, obviously it is a super ridiculous question, but the spirit of it is trying to get to how far would you take your interest in a thing? And it sounds like you guys would still be interested and find a way that the interest in witches is on a deeper level, and you would find a way to get through almost any obstacle.
Yeah. I've probably done more painful things for less reward.
Yeah.
You know? Like, just like wearing high heels to an event. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's like not like, that doesn't sound like a super hard trade.
No.
Would that be a worthwhile addition to my How Obsessed Are You questions? Like if somebody came in and is like, I just really love the TV show Big Bang Theory, would that be a legitimate question to say, would you wear high heels for 24 hours in order to be able to watch the Big Bang Theory?
That's a pretty good question.
Like, even a better question would be, what is wrong with you? Why do you watch that show? But,
yeah. But like even like if you ask someone like, would you stand in high heels to watch this TV show? That's kind of like that would limit you to like a very high quality TV show, I think.
Yeah. Which is the goal of the question. So yeah, I might add high heels. Thanks, guys. You're not only subverting the questions, you're giving me new ones.
Oh boy. Full of them.
I asked people to make a noise to sum up their obsession. What noise would you make to sum up your obsession with witches?
You're like, sorry, I just love making that noise.
No, it's great.
I just feel so smug and unimportant after what's happened in the past 2 days. But yeah, I stand by my cackle.
Yeah, those are great cackles, and I love the counterpoint of you guys obviously have like lots of deep philosophical thoughts and relationships to witches, and your noises. I have been rating people's obsession on a scale of 1 to 7. I'll say out of 7 broomsticks. I think you guys are both at about a 4 of obsession.
Okay.
In that it is important to you. You think about it. It has certainly like effects on your lives. You guys like are both people who have, I think, a sort of more internal intellectual obsession. Because some people are like, I like this TV show or this movie or this band, and I'm desperate to find ways to manifest that in the physical world. So I buy things in that. But it seems like your obsession is much more about life perspectives.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, we were talking about this before we came on the podcast, but I don't think either of us has that type of obsession that's like full-bodied. Like, I have a hard time getting there with anything.
Yeah. It's like it would be boring, but it would be like comedy. So it's like, what we're going to talk about. It's like, we're clearly obsessed with comedy in that like we do it like 80 hours a week.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But even like comedy shows that I love so much, I can't like, I'm not like the type of person who's going to like memorize every actor's name and like, you know what I mean?
Right, you
like,
have no desire to win a trivia contest, any of that kind of stuff.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. Cool. Do you feel good about a 4?
I feel good about a 4.
Yeah, I feel
definitely.
good.
Awesome. Well, we'll move on to the plug-in then. You guys have a book that you want to tell people about?
We do.
Yes. It's called How to Win at Feminism. It's a satirical take on the pop culture portrayal of feminism.
Yeah, so it's a manual on how to be a feminist from the point of view of a women's magazine that just discovered feminism.
Oh, cool.
Like this week.
So obviously it's in the Reductress brand. Is it building off of stuff that you've published, or is it entirely separate from content that's been on the website?
It's entirely new, but it is very much in the spirit of Reductress and in the voice of Reductress.
Cool. And it's out? It's already out, right?
It is out.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere in particular that you want people to buy it? Does it help you more if it's in a specific website or anything like that?
I mean, buy it at a store. Like, if you like have like feet, go walk to a store and buy it, and like make friends with someone there.
And tell
even
them
if
to
they're
stock
a dick.
it, you know?
Yeah, tell them to like put it in a nice place. Like you can buy it on Amazon or Burns and Noble online, but Whatever feels good.
Yeah, and if there's a bear outside the bookstore, just make friends with him.
Shake the bear's hand. Give him a book.
Give him like a telepathic hello, you know?
Yeah.
And then give him a book. Nice. So here's some quick business for the podcast. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram is @Joseph Scrimshaw. You can follow Obsessed Podcast on Twitter is @Obsessed Podcast. For info on my upcoming shows, you can check out my website at josephscrimshaw.com. There are 2 ways to support Obsessed. You can back us on Patreon and get exclusive bonus episodes every month. For full info on that, go to patreon.com/Joseph Scrimshaw. Or you can support all the podcasts on the Feral Audio Podcast Network by shopping through our portal. Just go to feralaudio.com, click the Support Our Artist button, and shop on Amazon, and some of the money will go to supporting us. So they could go to Amazon and buy your book,
Yes.
as well as buying it in person.
Yeah.
You should buy the book twice,
Yeah.
once in real life and once on Amazon through our portal.
You can get the audiobook version
Yeah.
and the hard copy.
You can conjure it up in the astral plane if you want to.
Yes.
Yeah.
Astrally project through
Yes.
Amazon. So here are the final questions. Don't have anything to do with your obsession, but they can if you want. If you could burn a word or short phrase into the moon so everyone could see it, what word or short phrase would you want on the moon?
I don't know why my immediate reaction was just to say the word moon, which is like the most hipstery tattoo type of thing.
That's so ironic. I mean, mine would probably just be like, yes. But that's going to look so dumb in 100 years, and people will be like, where did that come from?
It's so hard. It's so hard to come up
Yeah.
with something.
I like moon.
Moon.
I like moon.
Just like makes you think, you know?
It really does.
Yeah, right?
It's very like Andy Warhol, just like label a thing what it is. Does that change what it is? That we know what it is?
Yeah.
I think it does. I also like yes. It is just positive.
Yes,
Even
moon.
hundreds of years go by. That's just kind of a positive noise to make with your mouth. And you're like, you're bummed. But then the yes rock appears in the sky.
Exactly. It's 2016's Ohm.
Next question is, if you could have anything named after you, a street, like a theater, or a piece of legislation, anything, what would you want named after you?
A chair, like a really comfortable chair. Like for the public, because like I love naps, and whenever I'm out, I want to just like take a nap sometimes, just like in between things, and I'd like a really like a public lounge chair.
Just like one specific chair somewhere in
Like
in
a park
New
bench
York?
in New York, like right outside of Fort Greene Park. It'd be nice. Maybe inside it.
Yeah.
Be great.
I guess like a beach or a whale. It's so funny if there's a whale with my full name. Not a whale in captivity, obviously.
Right.
but
No.
Just like out there.
So we
memorial.
want just a free whale.
The Elizabeth Newell Memorial.
Yeah, like
Whale.
the ones that the scientists are like tracking. I
Okay.
guess, I'm sure I think they name them, and
Yeah.
they have a book of photographs of the whales like tails. That's how they recognize
Okay.
them. This is more stuff I know just based on growing up in Massachusetts. I think like too much about whales.
I don't think that you can know too much about whales.
They can know too much about you.
I actually wish I knew more about whales, but anyway, if anyone out there's naming whales,
Call me.
give me a
Call me. You got my digits. The final question for everyone on the podcast is, what is happiness?
I've been asking myself this every day. I think happiness is being content with what you have.
Yeah, I don't know. For me right now, I guess it's like having purpose, like feeling like you have a purpose.
Okay.
I don't think, obviously there's like the fleeting happiness of like rest and vacation, but like in terms of lasting happiness, I think you have to include the highs and the lows.
Yeah.
I like that.
So for you, it's about being content with what you have.
Yep.
And for you, it's about having a purpose moving forward.
Yes.
Okay. What if the purpose moving forward was being content somewhere in the future? Would that be happiness, or would that be weird?
Yeah, I think if you're like going after that in like a purposeful way, then yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think happiness is like relative to like what you're enduring in that moment in your life,
Yeah.
Like for people who've been severely depressed, it's like you can be like, I left the house today. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think, just purpose.
Yeah, well, that makes a lot of sense to me because I've been thinking a lot about the need for purpose of that I feel like, we all feel better when we have a thing that we must do. And I have been working for myself, too, about having those, like, smaller goals of, like, I put pants on today.
Yeah.
What a glorious, beautiful world it is.
Yeah.
I have pants.
Yeah, just like I'm going to try to discuss politics in a respectful way while still getting my point across.
Yes.
Yeah. That is the noblest version of putting pants on that we have.
Yeah.
The
right
world
now.
needs you to
That's
wear
our
pants,
pants.
Joseph.
Well, thank you guys so much for doing it. Those are great answers, and you're great guests. Thank you so much for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you.
This is fun.
You've been listening to Obsessed. Joseph Scrimshaw and his guest shared some stories with the rest. Rate 5 stars if you're impressed.